Hello, podcast listeners. This is your host with the most, JJ from JJ Meets World. A big episode today because we have the most guests we've ever had in one spot. And guess what? We're going to do it again in the next episode as well. You're going to meet some fantastic students. You're going to hear some great podcast pitches. And definitely hit the subscribe button when they launch these things out there. Sit back, relax, enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
Dr. Greg Carlson making another appearance on the JJ Meets World podcast.
Yeah,
How are
what
you
number
today,
is
Greg?
this? I need to keep track.
Well, our billing is behind, so that's why you haven't received a check yet.
Right. Well, it's always a thrill and an honor to be here, and even more so because we're in like a whole new environment right now.
This is really exciting. So you've invited us to Concordia to talk with your class. We had a wonderful discussion about podcasting, and today we're actually going to do some podcasting.
Yeah, so this is an audio production and podcasting class that lasts one half of a semester. So it's a very introductory kind of opportunity for people with no previous experience. And that's one of the things I like about it.
That's fantastic. So the feel that you're going to get, listener, is we're going to talk to student after student after student. We're going to get to know a little bit about them. I might even throw out my famous lemon versus lime argument just to see where we're at for pacing. And you're going to get a nice little swath. It's easily the most guests we've ever had on a single episode of JJ Meets World, right, Tucker?
That's sort of what appealed to me about it.
That's true. Also, just a note for the listeners at home, as we're recording this at Concordia, we are still in the middle of the Omicron coronavirus surge. And so we're all right now observing masking protocols. And so if we sound a little bit muffled, that's just because we are protecting each other.
Yeah, or you need to get a new phone.
Yeah, or you need to get a new phone. But
do not attempt to adjust your set or your controls.
Right. That's it.
Okay.
All right, fantastic. Okay,
all right.
Let's start this up. So, who wants to be first?
Yay!
Fantastic. Come on over.
Come on over. Come on and join the fun, join the party. And I'll be kind of a timekeeper, and I might interject, and Tucker might interject, but mainly these will be conversations that JJ is leading.
Get that microphone wherever's comfortable for you. Oh yeah. Little twist, a little pull. There you go.
A little dead air.
And you can focus. You can force it too. Like I force the arm sometimes. Yeah. That's good.
All right, let's start with this. What's your name?
My name is Luke.
Luke, what are you studying at Concordia?
So I'm studying biology with a minor in chemistry.
Okay, so how do you end up in a podcasting course?
Because I thought it was really cool.
Oh, fantastic. Good choice, Luke. Okay, so what is it about biology that gives you a thrill?
So I guess biology, it's the study of life. I think that how life works, the very small molecular intricacies of it, and how we kind of came to be as a species and how our world is so diverse, so much different life, I think it's very interesting and it's worth studying.
You know, it's a unique time right now because with the pandemic, human life has changed for the rest of time.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Is that one of the aspects that you find interesting, is the fact that what we studied in biology 200 years ago is somewhat the same, but also different now as we continue to learn more and progress?
Yeah, I do think that kind of like the progression of how we've studied biology is extremely interesting. I mean, like our ideas of certain stuff 200 years ago is extremely different than what we see today. And today we really do have a very sophisticated understanding of many biological systems and the molecular interactions that make them up.
I'm a big fan of going like, I can't believe they did that. And I was just reading a piece online about how when we used to think about like mental health issues, they were like, well, a lobotomy will solve that, or cocaine, and all the different things that we did to try and fix what now we've come to understand is like just the thumbprint of life.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you can go back to different, even like cigarette ads, and people are like, oh, cigarettes, they calm your nerves. They're recommended by blah, blah, blah. And now it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't even think of the last like piece of major media I saw. Well, actually, I saw the movie House of Gucci, and they were smoking a lot of that. And that felt so weird and awkward to me. I'm like, someone should tell them that they shouldn't be smoking so much.
It kind of made the movie, though. I mean, it was part of the whole like Italian...
The chow, like scooters, skiing, everything like that.
It's the cultural implication. I mean, yeah, it was a timepiece.
Luke, this is perfect because this is kind of sciencey, okay? So I ask people this question all the time. So let's say you are the last scientist to leave Earth, and we're colonizing Earth 2. We got a great planet. We terraformed it. It's going to be exciting. But you, as the last scientist leaving Earth 1, you've been tasked with collecting the DNA, the building blocks of all of these things, but there's been a miscalculation. You only have enough room to bring lemon or lime with you, one or the other. Sprite will no longer exist because one of these things is getting left behind. Do you choose lemon or do you choose lime?
That's pretty easy for me. I would choose a lime because I am 21. I do enjoy a gin and tonic, and
Good for you.
It only tastes correct with a lime. So for that simple reason, I would enjoy a lime.
And also, I love the fact, like, I am 21.
I have to say that.
Eventually, you don't have to preface conversations with that, but I do like that. So I'm in the same boat, right? But I know that there are people out there who say, like, oh, well, I love lemon desserts, or what am I going to put on my fish? So I like that. Well done. Is there a lime product other than the gin and tonic that you think would be the reason? So if, like, you're brought before the tribunal of Earth 2, and they're like, how dare you choose green limes instead of delicious sunny yellow lemons?
I think first off, lemons are really acidic and bad for your teeth. Now, so are limes, but maybe not to the same extent.
Okay.
As well as I personally enjoy limeade over lemonade. I know lemonade's super popular. It's a summer drink. It's probably heresy to say limeade's better than lemonade, but in my opinion, it is.
Okay.
I think limes are also kind of cool because you don't see them as much. Like lemons are so everywhere in pop culture, and limes are kind of that elusive green lemon, but it's a lime.
Is there a biological hack that you could do to turn a lime into a lemon? So if you kind of like break the system a bit, pick one, but then when you get there, like, I'm just going to make new lemons from the limes anyways.
I do not know.
Okay.
It's the study of life, Tucker, not the study of flavor. All right? He's not Guy Fieri.
There probably is someone that knows, and that person is not me.
Gotcha.
Okay. Where are you from originally, Luke?
So I grew up in the Twin Cities.
Okay. Do you like the Twin Cities? You came to Concordia in Moorhead, Minnesota, but...
You know what? I thought it was cold there, and then I came even farther north. So...
I'm a huge fan of the Twin Cities area. I've had lots of friends who've lived out there. And one of the things I've missed the most during the pandemic, where I would go to the Twin Cities once a month, right? You know, whether it's an overnight trip or stay for a couple of days. And I really miss it. And some of my favorite restaurants have closed down during this time as well. And that gets to be a bummer, for me. But I think that like so many people take for granted something like just going to Minneapolis for the weekend, right? Or being able to, like, there's a place in downtown St. Paul called Casetta's.
Yep.
Yeah, right? Oh, my God. I go there and I buy literally 15 sticks of pepperoni.
Yes.
And I think sometimes they look at me like I'm insane. Is there something that, like, people, like, if the friends you've made here in Moorhead, like, that ask you about, like, with Minneapolis?
I guess there are a few things. I mean, kind of the basic. There's a couple like chain restaurants, like for example, Raising Cane's.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
People up here are like, oh my gosh, you have Raising Cane's, and to me, I'm just like, yeah, there's like 5 of them right next to where I live.
No big deal.
I'm like, who cares? And I'm personally not the huge fan of them, but a lot of people are.
Okay, so what's your beef with Raising Cane's? Come on, why are you throwing so much shade at them? They've got 5 locations right near you. They must be doing something right.
I feel like the chicken is like not as crispy as I usually would like it.
Okay.
So,
I mean, to each his own, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people love it, and hey, great. But hope I didn't offend any viewers.
No,
or listeners.
You do hope that you offended them, Luke. Like, really put it out on the table and let people know how you feel. During the pandemic, one of the things my wife and I did is we started eating at more restaurants we don't normally go to because of delivery policies and things like that, right? And one of the things I noticed is we get so mad, like, oh God, I can't believe my Uber delivery driver didn't bring this and I'm like, listen, they're the middle person.
Yeah.
So if your soup has spilled over and your bag now looks like a bladder on the bottom instead of just a plastic bag, then you can be mad at your delivery driver. But a lot of times it's what the restaurant did to put that stuff together. And I've noticed that there's no good way for boneless buffalo wings to travel.
Interesting.
Right?
I agree with you.
Right?
Yeah.
And I miss it so much. So taking this back to biology, maybe that could be something that that you go into is let's figure out how to genetically engineer a chicken that will have its delicious boneless meat be something that travels better when it comes to getting it to my house.
I got to ask Tucker because he's a huge, boneless wing aficionado.
Yeah.
How do you feel about whether boneless wings travel?
I mean, you want them as hot and fresh out the kitchen as you can get them. And I think my real one thought is, how are they going to make the trip to Earth 2? Like, if they're having trouble just getting from Applebee's to South Fargo, how far away is Earth 2 in this scenario?
Well, what they've done is they've deconstructed an entire Applebee's location to be rebuilt on Earth 2. That will be a mixture of both a delightful neighborhood eatery and a museum at the same time.
We're nearly at the 2-minute warning. It goes by so fast.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to tell JJ a little bit about what you think you're going to do for your podcast.
So it has nothing to do with science, but one of my huge hobbies is cars and like automotive stuff. Like I love it. I mean, I've been devouring the car YouTube stuff since I was young, like in YouTube when I was just like an early adolescent when YouTube was still kind of starting off. And I kind of wanted to kind of talk. I think that cars uniquely have like everyone has a story about their car or about a car or some instance with it because it's such a big part of our culture, especially in America. And so I kind of want to dive in and talk to a few different people about like what they think about cars. And because some people don't care, it's just point A to point B. And some people are, oh, my car is named Larry and blah, blah, blah. I've had adventures with him or whatever.
The love affair with automobiles in the United States.
Oh,
I mean, it showed people your wealth for a
Yes.
long time, right? So like the bigger the car, the newer the car that you had, it changed the way we thought about, have you ever heard that old adage of like, well, the average person in 1890 never went more than 25 miles from where they were born. And then all of a sudden vehicles made it so that you could travel and you could see family that you had never met before. Have you ever been to the Henry Ford Museum?
I have not. It's on my list, but I have not been there.
It is one of easily the best museums, I think, in the country that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah.
And it's not all cars. It's all about like, kind of American innovation in a way. But the section that is about vehicles is just amazing.
I would imagine, yeah.
So so what's the car that you fell in love with?
So when I turned 16, I got a Ford Mustang. So I'm definitely a Ford guy. I know a lot of people in the area are Chevy fans. Ford's just better. It just is.
My first vehicle was a 1975 Ford Econoline conversion van, man. So I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a Ford.
A couple of Ford guys here, right?
It's Ford. That's all that matters. But I got that, and I absolutely loved it. Drove it to high school, and my best friend from high school also had a Mustang, but he got a 1967 Mustang. It was one of those crazy stories where you found it in like the back of like a barn or something, and it was like driving by, and it was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go look at that." And the owner's like, "Hey, you can just buy it for X amount of dollars." And it was dirt cheap for what it was worth. Now, given did it run, but it was cool. So both of us had our Mustangs, and we would always park in the back of the parking lot. Of course, we'd back in because we were cool.
Right? Yeah.
And
You never know when you need a quick getaway, and you just don't want to like put your arm behind and look.
Oh, of course not. And then, of course, in the football games, we both be sitting there just on the back of our cars. By the way, never worked to get any girls. Never worked.
Never? Not once?
Every time we thought it would work, never worked.
Girls like Dodges.
Don't say that.
That's not true. That's not true. I have no idea what girls like.
Luke,
They like respect.
Or Ferraris.
I think when it comes down to it, it was probably just a matter of like, well, those guys have already found each other. So I don't want to get between what's going on. Luke, a real pleasure. Thanks for chatting with us.
Having me.
And you let me know the name of that podcast and I'll download it and I'll start to reminisce about my favorite vehicles over the years.
Thank you. I'll let you know.
Are we just going to keep
just
rolling?
keep rolling.
Yeah, so
I
the
can-
next person can come up and
Luke,
take
that's pretty easy, right?
Shannon's going to come over
Yeah,
while
easy.
Luke is transitioning out. And during the transition, I just have to say, since I'm so glad JJ brought Henry Ford into the conversation. Now, he's a controversial guy,
Yep,
right? He's got his demons. and his bad points, but I love aphorisms, and Henry Ford is one of the kings of the aphorism. He may have been the person who had above his mantle carved the phrase "chop your own wood and it warms you twice," and I love that aphorism. It's one of my favorites, and of course, one that you associate directly with cars when he said, you can have a Ford in any color you want as long as it's black. When they were making the car originally.
I just watched the Ford versus Ferrari movie, and they have that great moment where they talk about how Henry Ford came out to the production line and was so angry, and he sent everybody home because you got to come up with a new concept, and we haven't innovated anything in a while. And how like an employee who was walking home just thought of an idea, brought it back the next day, and then boom, it went into production. Now that employee, I don't believe, ended up getting any money other than their regular hourly wage, but like you said, he's got his demons. And so, okay, fantastic. Would you please introduce yourself, student number 2?
Yes, my name is Shanyn. I'm a communication studies major minoring in art and business here at Concordia.
Okay, so are those two separate things, art and business,
Yes.
or it's art business?
Art and business separately.
Okay, so you got a lot. So you've got
Yeah.
a big course load.
Yep.
Did you know that can you see a career with those 3 things in mind?
I see a lot of careers. I can't figure out which one I want. Yeah, so for my strategic communication class right now, we actually had to interview communication professionals in a field that we're interested in. So yesterday and today, I interviewed 2 marketing specialists, and they described their job, and both of them were completely different. One of them works with Google and Facebook ads, and the other works with like Adobe InDesign and Illustrator and Word and Excel. So that confused me a little more, if I'm being quite honest. But
So you're not talking to anyone who's out there being like, I'm selling ads on buses. Here you go. Like
Not
everyone who's on a
quite.
bus.
No, I'm not sure which company does that.
Marketing is one of those industries that has drastically changed. So the internet clearly changes what happens and what you can do as far as like strategic marketing, right? So the fact that based off of what I have in my emails and in my Amazon cart, someone can be like, hey, this guy's 38. He loves buffalo wings, but he's not eating as much of them lately as he used to be. And he lives in this area, and he probably has a dog, or he's eating dog food, one or the other. So the fact that they're like, that's the guy we want to market to. We don't want to market to the other guy who lives next door who doesn't buy dog food and who clearly is a vegan. I'm amazed by that.
Yeah.
And it also it's good, right? Like it's neat for the advertiser.
Yeah, sometimes it's been really convenient. There's been a few times where I just think of something and then 30 minutes later I get an ad for it, and I'm assuming there's some environmental cues.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is scary, but I've been told that your phone is not listening to you.
It's gotta be.
I don't really believe that, but I don't know if there's like environmental cues that we're both picking up on, just me and my iPhone.
We in this very classroom last semester, when I was teaching new media, I wear a Ween hoodie, and Tucker and I are huge fans of the band. And one of the students said, "What's Ween?" Had never heard of it. We just had a little conversation about Ween, and the next time she came to class, she said on her Facebook, Ween was popping up. And we didn't have any, we weren't doing any inputs. It was just something was listeing.
Yeah, I don't remember who told me that they're not, but I think they were
I don't believe
lying.
them.
Yeah, they're lying.
I actually work in marketing, and part of it, that's not the whole story, but part of it is that there are so many data sets out there that you're feeding into all the time.
Yeah.
And then they can tell where you are and who you're around every day. So if you and I were in class together and like, oh,
That's
Shannon
it.
and Tucker are in class together, Tucker really likes Ween.
Yep.
She might also like Ween, and then you're going to see ads for it in that way. So it's not that they're listening to you. They're doing everything else. They can track everything. They know what you're purchasing on your credit cards. They know who you're emailing. Because if you're using Gmail, then they're selling the information that's in your email account and any other thing like that. So what it is they're doing everything but listening to you, but they get more information that way, and then they cross-reference and find out who you're near to. That's one of the many ways that they do it.
So Shannon, are you going to be one of the good guys or one of the bad guys?
Being evil is really tempting.
Yeah, right?
If you join the dark side, there's that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Darth Vader was the best character in Star Wars.
Lots of benefits.
I have not seen Star Wars, by the way. Every
That's okay.
conversation.
We don't have to talk about Star Wars.
Every
Right.
time we talk
Just right this minute.
Every time we talk about it, like you're talking about it before class, that's why I'm silent.
Shannon walks in and like the eye roll just immediately begins because what are the odds we're talking about Star Wars? Better than 80%.
Yeah.
Of the days.
Okay, so let's talk about something that makes more sense then, since we're talking to you right now, Shannon. So art and business with those minors, I think, are really interesting. So, like, to me, that's like, I'm going to own or run a gallery. But really, like, I think you need to... We all think of, like, the person who, like, is making their life through creating art in some way. But if they don't have an idea of how to pay rent, they're going to get kicked out of that apartment pretty quick, and their easel is going to get repossessed. So I think the problem is that so many
That's
artists...
an expensive easel.
It is. Well, I just got an ad on Instagram
Is it made
for
of like
Repo.
unicorn bone or something?
The easel weasels after him.
But I think it's important that, if you live in this world where you want to create art, you do need to understand that there is a side of this that is it's show business, right, for people out there. So do you think you want to do something that's arts related where you can happen to have this like savvy on the other side?
I don't necessarily like they can kind of be opposites, like two sides of a scale, and balance each other out, but they also work together, so they don't have to be completely separate. There's been things I've done in my business classes, like integrated marketing campaigns, where I've done design stuff at the same time that I was taking digital design for my art minor. So, and like one of the people that I interviewed for that project I mentioned earlier, she's using InDesign and Illustrator and other Adobe programs, and other members of her team are using Audition and Premiere and Photoshop and Lightroom. So I've had experience with those, and it is interesting how they actually kind of intermingle a little more. But I ended up with the minors because I came to Concordia not really knowing what I wanted to do. I've always kind of been interested in advertising, but Concordia doesn't have that. So they were like, you are going to do marketing and art, because I was thinking about doing graphic design. And then they said, well, if you want to do advertising, that's actually different. That's under communications. So then I switched to art and comm, and then they got rid of the graphic design program. So I've changed my major twice.
Sounds like you need a new advisor is what you need.
I've actually gotten a new one every single year. And I'm a junior, so that's quite a few.
I'll just go on the record and say I've never officially been Shannon's advisor.
What? Okay, so you're talking about a digital art form. Sounds a lot like you're clearly sponsored by the Adobe Suite.
I wish.
Which, by the way, so I'm gonna get old manish on you right now. Back in the day, you spent like $1,000, and then you got a couple of discs from Adobe, and then you had like Photoshop, right? But if they updated it, you never got any of the updates because they want you to spend another $1,000. The Adobe Suite right now, I hope that all the kids in this room appreciate the fact that it's so easy and so awesome with the cloud. Dr. Carlson used to drag these giant hard drives every time we'd like do a movie, like a piece on iMovie, and everyone's just so lucky nowadays.
Yeah.
Do you feel lucky, Shannon?
We were shooting on tape, several formats of tape, even going back to half-inch.
Yeah.
SVHS.
Luckily, podcasting stepped in after a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel lucky. I'm just a little annoyed because you get like extra sales or whatever it is, your first year of Adobe, and
Right.
I hit that in December, so now
Well,
it's more expensive.
what JJ didn't mention is, of course, now the model is just get people paying forever. The
Yeah.
subscription-based service, it's less money, it seems affordable, but then over time, you'd have to be on there a while to spend your $1,000. But I don't know which of the two is better.
So I have a question then about, since everyone in this class is working on a podcast of their own, are you focusing on a podcast that's following what you're interested in these majors, or do you have a totally different subject in mind?
My idea is kind of pretty vague, pretty
Sweet.
broad. And
That's what this podcast is. It was called JJ Vague's World for a while.
JJ's general idea. Yeah, so I think it has to do with my personality a little bit, and that also relates to why I've chosen my majors and what I'm interested in. But I just like having random conversations. So this for me is great right now. And my idea would just be using like a random word generator. And then you have to talk about that word. And it can be, so they could be really drawn out stories, or they could just be a quick fact. Like you could say blimp, and I would tell you the Goodyear blimp is the official bird of Redondo Beach, California, I believe.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
So it could be,
great.
could
I
be
love
short
it.
things like that, or it could be, your whole childhood story.
Do you see that podcast like a length? Like it's going to be 5-minute episodes. It's going to be 30. It's going to be an hour long. It's going to be varied greatly in between.
I think the sweet spot would be about 20 to 30. But yeah, I mean, if you're really getting into a conversation with somebody, there's no limit. Why would you, stop that, hinder that?
I at one point had like one of those word a day calendars where you'd rip it off every single day. So I always thought, I'm going to incorporate this into my, into my vernacular at some point today. But I listen to a podcast that's 20 minutes long because it's the perfect amount of time for me to get up, eat my breakfast on the way to work, get to work. And it usually has some kind of factoid. And so I'm the person who tries to bring that up at work. So I will inorganically be like, well, the thing about the cuttlefish is, but I think people love that kind of stuff. So that'll be a great podcast. And also, I think the one thing that, like, no matter what you got to think about is that first 15 minutes, you might not be able to scratch the surface really deep with somebody, but after that, you might find it's just amazing. And so scrap that first 15 minutes until someone is a little more vulnerable and they bring up those stories and those facts and those little funny quips.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just love getting to know people that way. So yeah, I have noticed like after a few minutes when you're more comfortable, that's when things really flow.
That's awesome.
Since we're saying goodbye to Shanyn, what's your favorite word? Randomly generated.
Oh, I mean,
blimp was good. That was a good one. But I know.
See,
I'm putting you on the
favorite
spot.
word, it sticks in my head. I use it as often as I can. I actually have two. I love the word yonder. Just saying, that's over yonder.
Yep.
And then tchotchkes.
Oh, two good ones.
yeah, wonderful.
The spelling and the pronunciation, it's just divine, honestly.
I mean, can you use both of them in the same sentence?
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, my house is down the street. I got some tchotchkes over yonder.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Shanyn.
Going forward, Greg, why don't you let me know when we're at 8 minutes, and I'll just do this.
Sure.
We're
and
2
give it
minutes
to-
away from 10.
Yeah, sounds good.
Instead of doing this, which makes
Right.
it seem like I'm being impatient with you. Which
Yeah,
Who's
and
up?
I'm like,
Who's
ease
coming
up.
in? Oh my gosh, there's volunteers all along the way here. First come, first serve. Just stand up, someone, and come right over.
There you go.
Okay.
and
Who's
then
gonna
we'll put
leap
you,
over
you'll
the
be right
desk?
after him then.
We'll just kind of come down the line, sure, on who's ready today. And if you're feeling like you want to wait until Friday, we're doing it again on Friday to
you
make
go.
sure everyone gets an opportunity.
So go ahead and just get right up to the microphone about 1 or 2
scoot
inches
right
away
in
from
there,
you.
Yeah.
and I'm going to
Get it where it's
start us
comfortable.
off.
There you go.
Welcome to JJ Meets World. Would you introduce yourself to the listening audience?
I'm Jaxon Millette. I'm a communications and theater arts major with a film studies minor.
Oh, Jaxon, you're mixing a lot of fun media together, and that I like that. Okay, where are you from originally, Jaxon?
Forest Lake, Minnesota. It's a town a half hour north of the Twin Cities, and it's known for two things. I-35 splits twice, once in Texas and then once at the Twin Cities. And it comes back together right at Forest Lake, so we're the first exit there. It's also the town that took legendary hockey coach Herb Brooks out of the world. He died at an intersection crossing through.
They did not include that in the movie Miracle.
Oh, boy.
I think
That's such a way to put
that
it.
happened
town
during
killed him?
filming.
Oh, did it?
The
did
town
It?
killed him.
yes.
That's amazing.
I am I'm a big fan of places that describe what they are. So, like the town named Fargo. Have you ever heard this old joke? Maybe, probably not. So we used to say like two guys arrive on either side of the Red River, and one says, "Listen, there's more ahead over here," and he goes, "Well, I got far to go," and that's how they got their names. That's not true at all. Don't listen to elementary school students. If they tell you that, it's a fact.
I'm going to
they're
interject one
liars.
quick thing because JJ is a fan of the great television film critic Gene Shalit, and he was a punster, and Gene Shalit's best on-air review ever was "Don't forego Fargo, go." That's how awful. So Mike Schultz, my friend Mike Schultz is a friend of all of ours here. We often will just say that apropos of nothing, because it's just a Gene Shalitism.
Wow.
So is there a lake that's surrounded by forests, or is there a forest that's covered by a lake?
I think it was at one point surrounded by a forest, but now like I think there's like literally a 200-yard stretch of land that isn't developed on this entire lake. I've driven around it multiple times. People live on it now, very expensive houses because it's a big lake. But yeah, there's like 200 yards where there's still a lot of trees. Everywhere else is like a tree, house, yard.
Have you ever been to a city named Jackson? Any of the famous Jacksons in the United States?
No.
So if you did, do you think it would be annoying?
No, because here's the thing. My name's spelled Jaxon, so I don't really associate myself with other Jacksons unless I have to.
And I don't believe that there's one Jaxon.
I don't think so either.
I mean, yet.
Maybe an outer space city.
Like on Earth,
right? Like on a planet, like on Earth too. Yep.
In fact, that's what they're singing about, going back to Jackson and Earth 2, because it's aliens singing it at that point. I'm always amazed when I meet someone who, like, I assumed it was Jackson, right? So, do your parents ever tell you why Jackson is spelled in that way?
Yeah, I'm named after a character from a soap opera, General Hospital. I think it's actually brothers. There's like Jackson Jax, and then there's Jasper Jax. One of them's a hitman. I think I'm the hitman.
Your parents sound rad.
Yeah.
They had a theme. They were like, each child we have, the last part of their first name needs to end with O-N. So rather than find other names that ended with O-N, my mom just continued down the line of soap opera characters. So my youngest brother's name is Jason, who my character in the show has tried to kill Jason multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then my middle brother, Colton, he's from, like, I think, Young and the Restless. So he's kind of off in his own world.
That rules.
That is awesome. Like, that is an icebreaker if I've ever heard one before. You're lucky your parents weren't like really into fast food. Your name could be Arby's right now.
Arby's would be a cool
So
name.
have you watched any of this program since you've got a namesake included with it?
I used to watch General Hospital a lot with my mom back when she used to work as a lunch lady at school. So like she had weird hours in the summer. So we'd watch it in the summer. And I kind of stopped watching it. They brought James Franco, who was my childhood favorite actor for a while, until he did some bad things. And then
Hate the jerk, love the work, right?
yeah, yeah. But I think I stopped watching after they got rid of James Franco because I was like, I'm 10 years old now. This is a soap opera.
I'm self-actualizing as a 10-year-old.
I love it. And wading into some
for this soap opera.
wading into darker territory. Is James Franco worthy of redemption? Where are you at on this issue? I know this is a tough one.
I remember. I think I remember the day. It was like January 23rd, 2018 is when I was sitting in art class, and like it was like right at the height of the Me Too movement. And I had just opened my phone during like a 5-minute break during art class, and I saw that headline, and I went to the bathroom, and I just sat for a while and sat with it. And for a while, I didn't really want to like acknowledge it, but then I like acknowledged it. And just as I've come to terms with it, he just did an interview I think a month or two ago, and he talked about it. And I don't know. I think what he did is very bad, it sounds like. And at first he denied it, and now he has come out and said, yes, I've had sex with students in my acting class. So yeah, I don't think that he'll be worthy of redemption. Like, I don't think I'll ever be like, yeah, I'm a big fan of James Franco ever again. I might if I feel that he's done the time to fix himself, I might be there to see his whatever he does next.
And done the work to fix himself, right? Yeah, it's a tough one.
You kind of have to imagine that Spider-Man No Way Home, like, a lot of people were invited back to that playground, but James Franco was not one of them.
Right?
Yeah.
You know? What do you think of Dave Franco?
I think Dave Franco, he's cutting his own corner out in the world. I think he just did a movie, I think, that released during the pandemic called The Rental or something.
Yes, he did.
Yep. And I think him and Allison Brie, his wife, they just wrapped filming on his second project a couple months ago. So he's always kind of been like you know how it is. Like, you're not going to like root for your hero's younger brother because you know that your hero's younger brother isn't rooting for him because it's the whole younger brother thing. So I feel kind of bad.
I like the concept though.
Yeah.
Why not root for your hero's younger sibling? I don't know.
The famous families intrigue me, right? Because you sort of wonder, like, okay, was there ever a point where Dave Franco was like, well, the only reason that I've been able to do this is because people wanted a cheaper version of my brother to show up. But then I think that he definitely made a great world for himself. You know, I thought he was so funny in the 21 Jump Street remake that came out. I thought that he was just really genuinely funny in that. And so I also did really like that. Allison Brie is actually, I got a cameo from her recently. Familiar with Cameo?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. And so the message was from my wife. It was an early Valentine's Day gift because I'm obsessed with both the show Mad Men and Community.
Okay.
And you talk about a school in acting. She was making both of those at the same time and drastically different characters for both of her. Let's talk about your theater resume real quick, okay? So what have you been in?
Most recently for Concordia, I did The Mousetrap, which is a murder mystery. And
very popular. Been done many, many times.
Yeah. And I think the pandemic is the only thing that's knocked it out of London's West End.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Run consistently. I played the semi-toxic husband of the owner of the guest house it's set in, which kind of continues a trend. I play a lot of bad significant others. I don't know what it is about me.
It's that X in your name. It looks really good when you in a playbill.
I guess. But I like to go for things that are like make me look like a joke. Like, this isn't theater, but it was on a stage for an air band thing, which is like lip syncing bands. I dressed up as Batman in a child's costume. Which I spent months meticulously planning out and seeing if I could fit into this costume. So it's already very tight, and I'm on stage. And I'm like, you know what would be cool? If I did a backflip. I've never done a backflip before. So
Even better.
I still committed to it. And my body stopped halfway through the air and then just dropped like a rock.
Oh, no.
And the audience was like, Jaxon, are you okay? We heard a crunch. Like, the stage or you crunched. And it turned out it was my, like, hip bone. I cracked my hip bone when I landed because I just kind of, like, gave myself a jump.
Oh, my word.
Jaxon,
So what was the song you were airbanding to?
Have you ever seen the Lego Batman movie?
Yes, I have, many times.
You know his opening music number, Who's the Batman?
Yep.
It was that song because I was like, this is perfect. Like, Patrick Stump, lead singer of Fall Out Boy, does like the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
I love Fall Out Boy, so let's do this. And yeah, I cracked my hip bone doing that.
We have less than a minute
bummer.
left, so tell JJ your podcast idea.
Yeah, so it's called The Entire History of Now, and it's going to be me and my best friend, John Richard Hurt, who his dad is a great in-joke 19 years, named him Richard Hurt. His plan was to name him Richard Jonathan Hurt, so he could be Dick Hurt.
Yep. I love that.
So me and John Hurt are going to explore the entire realm of now. So basically, we'll have like a news story that's relevant to the time we're recording, and we'll just have a conversation. We've had a lot of conversations that have like evolved into completely like different things that aren't related. Like, we're a little politically like opposed. So we'll talk about something like immigration, and it'll just be a debate about immigration. And then it'll turn into like, what does this have to do with like restaurants and stuff? And we'll talk about our favorite restaurants in our favorite areas. So like, just kind of a spontaneous podcast that kind of covers now, because now is now.
Sure.
And that's the
And who
history
doesn't
of it.
love a hot take on something, right?
Yeah.
to go like, yeah, like we're in a point right now. I remember when they were talking about the refugees from Afghanistan coming to the United States, and they're like, oh, all of our borders are so hard, like we're already packed deep. And Fargo, North Dakota has a customs border. And they're like, well, why don't we bring a bunch of these refugees to North Dakota? And there were people who were up in arms. And I'm like, hey, man, they had to close down Panera at 2:00 today, okay? I am all about getting some more people here who are willing to work and who want to be in the United States. Like, why would you ever want to turn that away? What army has ever been like, hey, we're good. We have enough people. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll call you later. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So there you go. I love that idea. That's awesome. Jaxon, Jaxon, who's always the villain. Just always the villain. Yep. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We should applaud in between each one, because then we kind of know. It helps bring up the next person. That was wow.
Thank you for the laughs, Jaxon. That hit me hard.
Yeah. Yep. Starting with Herb Brooks. Now I'll never think of Herb Brooks the same way as I do because of Forest Lake. Okay. Here we go.
Welcome to JJ Meets World. Let's introduce you to the listening audience.
All right. I'm Chloe. I double major in communications and multimedia journalism and a minor in film studies.
Chloe, you're wearing a sweatshirt with a bear on it. Is that, it's from the North Face.
Yes.
Is that because doesn't California have a bear on their flag?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same bear.
I don't know. Theirs is a grizzly. Couldn't tell you what this one is.
I don't know what it is either. I don't know much about bears, if I'm going to be honest. And I went to a high school, and our mascot was a bear.
Yeah, my sister loves bears. That's actually her favorite animal.
Really?
Yeah. Don't know why.
So, like, it must have been easy because you could just give her a teddy bear, right?
Oh,
like, hey,
yeah.
Merry Christmas. Here you go as a teddy bear.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so what's your favorite animal then?
Oh, that's a good question. Norwegian Forest Cat.
Okay,
Good
let's
choice.
deal
Very
with
good
some very
choice.
specifics, because I would have accepted kitty. So tell me about the Norwegian Forest Cat. Is that what you said?
They're really big cats, really pretty. They're long hair.
They're gorgeous.
They're Norwegian, and I have a lot of Norwegian in me. And my dad is literally full-blooded Scandinavian.
Oh, nice.
And they have a cool story in Norse mythology. They pull, I can't remember what goddess it is, but they pull the chariot of one of them.
What?
Yeah, it's just this.
So how big? When you say that they're really big,
God.
how big are we talking about?
I think it depends. I'm not
Like,
sure.
are they practically like tiger size? Are they mountain lion?
Oh, no.
Are they?
They're small. They're like house cat size, but still
Okay.
big for a house cat.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if someone tells me like, hey, would you come and watch my cat? And I open the door and like the cat is big enough to where I'm like, I can't pick that up right now. I always feel like I've been duped. So your dad is full on Scandinavian,
Yes,
huh?
he is.
So
And-
is he a first generation U.S. citizen? Is he dual citizenship?
No. It's actually quite a few generations, but my grandparents managed to keep the blood pure.
Sure. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Let's just say she did air quotes too around
Yeah.
that. She's not definitely saying because they can't see the air quotes.
Getting into
yeah.
potentially fraught territory when you say that our family, I mean, on multiple levels, if you're saying we're going to keep the blood
Right.
pure.
Your grandparents were at a Lefse event together, and they fell in love, and there was no nefarious pieces to this.
Well, my grandpa is Norwegian and my grandmother is Swedish. So they are the ones that mess things up.
Yeah, that can be like Romeo and Juliet. You know,
Yeah.
some Norwegians and Swedes may not take so kindly to marrying across the border.
Yeah,
So do you lean into that, like Scandinavian, like heritage?
yeah, I would say I definitely do. Like my favorite meal is like meatballs and like Swedish meatballs and mashed potatoes. I love Swedish pancakes. I've heard that my accent is like terrible for Minnesota. I get made fun of it quite often.
By who?
By like people who are just even from the cities. They're like, "Hey, can you say this word for me?" And I'm like, "No."
She sounds like she's from North Minnesota.
Yeah. Which I am. I'm from very up north.
Wait, where?
Roseau, Minnesota.
Oh, I've been there many, many times.
Yes, that is where I'm from.
This is going to get ultra specific, and only two
Okay.
people who listen to this are going to be on it. So I was in Baudette not too long ago,
Yep.
and Marvin Windows, huge up there, right?
Yep.
Gigantic place. So Marvin Windows apparently needed a hardware store, and no hardware stores wanted to open one there. So they literally opened a Marvin Windows hardware store that the factory can use, but the people of the town, nicest hardware store I've ever been in my entire life. It's massive.
Yeah.
It is wonderful.
Yeah, it is really nice. I've had to go in there a few times for some lumber, but Roseau has 5 hardware stores.
Oh, yeah? Which is let's put them in order.
Okay, so
Starting
there's-
with the best and going down.
Oh, for the best? I have no idea. I'm not a mechanical person, but I have worked at one.
Come on, you just told me you bought lumber. That is not hardware store 101.
It was for my dad. He's just like, hey, can you go get this lumber? I'm like, are you going to have to write it down?
I need you to
for
run
me?"
down and pick up some 2x4s. Is that what he said?
Probably. And I was like, what are 2x4s?
Okay, so let's start with the hardware stores. Just name them. What do we got?
Tractor Supply, which I worked at.
Okay.
And I actually work at the one in Moorhead. It's very not me. I'm not very tractor supply person.
Okay.
But I like it there.
I'm going to cross my fingers because I got a story about that location I'm going to tell you.
Okay. And then we got Ace Hardware.
Uh-huh.
And then we got Fleet Supply.
Great.
And then we have 2 places called we call them Coast to Coast, but one is Scott's Coast True Value and one's just Coast True Value.
Oh, okay.
So those are our 5 hardware stores.
And does any of them offer a product that you're like, oh, I go there, but not really for building materials, but because they have the best cell phone chargers or anything like that?
Not really. I've gone to Ace a lot more. Besides,
It's a helpful hardware place, according to their slogan.
Yeah, and I have friends that have worked there, but then I've started recently going to Tractor Supply mainly because I get that discount.
Sweet discount. Okay. So the Tractor Supply Company in Moorhead, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I had a friend who had a pit bull. Really nice dog.
Yeah.
I mean, like a sweetheart of a dog. But his family was going out of town for the weekend and they couldn't bring the pit bull with, and nobody wanted to take care of it, right? Because
Aw.
it's a big dog, right?
Yeah.
So, they find out that the Tractor Supply Company in Moorhead would board dogs like overnight and for like a couple days. And so they brought the dog's name was Mitch. They brought Mitch over and they brought him on a Thursday. The family's leaving on Friday. They get a call right away when Tractor Supply Company opens on Friday and says, you got to come and pick up your dog.
Oh no.
So overnight, Mitch broke out of his cage and ate the equivalent of $1,000 worth of dog treats and food
Oh my god.
inside the Tractor Supply location. And so then they called me and they're like, hey, would you watch this dog? I'm like, no way. That dog is full of $1,000 worth of treats. Do you know what's going to happen in the next 24 hours? No, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
And so someone had to stay home and watch Mitch during the whole time. So
I'm
next
gonna-
time you go in there, ask your manager about
I'm
that.
gonna have to ask him and be like, hey, I heard this wild story about a dog named Mitch.
Yeah, be like, oh, don't even talk about Mitch.
Oh my gosh.
Not in my presence.
That's insane.
Okay, so again, remind me what you're majoring in.
Communications, journalism, minor in film studies.
Okay, what do you want to do with that journalism degree?
Oh, that's a good question. I know it's gonna take a while because I don't plan to get a master's at the moment, but that could change. But I would love to work for National Geographic. I've
Cool.
been a fan of them ever since I was in first grade when my grandma got me a subscription to National Geographic Kids.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you do you know how cool it is to have a press pass? Because it's really neat.
No, I wish.
So I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if you're interested in any part-time work, but KFGO is hiring right now, the radio station I work at. And you get to work with people who, we just won an Edward R. Murrow Award for our coverage of the riots in downtown Fargo. We've got a bunch of Eric Severide awards. I mean, these are people who have been in this business for so long that they are just the height of local journalism, right? And so if you ever wanted a part-time job or anything like that, come on over. It doesn't
right.
pay amazing, but we got concert tickets like there's no tomorrow.
Oh,
so you can
perfect.
see
I
any
love
show you
music.
want.
Yeah.
And that goes for everyone in this room, so I can justify not being at work right now. I think that to me, journalism is interesting because along with the podcasting art form,
Yeah.
it is you can be a journalist, you can write stories, you can report the news easier than ever before. You can start your own YouTube channel and say like, I don't care about you, Rupert Murdoch. Like, I don't need your business. Is that so? Like with National Geographic, do you want to do something where you're telling long form stories? Do you want to concentrate on the photo element? What do you feel like?
I really love photography. I've also been into that for a really long time, and I actually wanted to go into photojournalism, but that's since changed. But so the photography aspect is super interesting to me, but I also really like writing journalism. Like that's my favorite form of it. And it's sad because it's kind of dying, but it's not at the same time because the internet is also publishing these written articles. So yeah, long form and photography are probably what I would go for.
Cool. Okay, what do you want to do?
Sorry to interrupt, JJ, but we're running out of time with Chloe because we're going to stick to our schedule. We're going to get one more interview recorded today. Tell JJ a little bit about your podcast idea.
So it's kind of still in the works, but it's definitely going to have something to do with music. And I want it to be music that I don't listen to. Like I have a friend who listens to like death metal. I don't listen to that. Or country music or nowadays country music. I like the old stuff like Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan. I don't like Thomas Rhett or Morgan Wallen type stuff. So, and just like interview people about that music and not the music I'm into. So I can like maybe start appreciating it a little bit more.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I recently heard country music referred to as farm emo.
Oh no, I don't agree with that.
I'm not even sure what to make of that.
Right? I think modern day country music for me, a lot is farm emo for sure.
I like Midwest emo. I like that genre.
Well, and there's so many subcategories of each. So like down in Texas, if you're along the coast, you listen to red dirt country, which is different than like the country that you might listen to in Oklahoma. And I'm fascinated. So Chloe, thank you. I can't wait to listen to that podcast. It sounds awesome.
You.
Thank you, Chloe. We're going to tee up our last interview subject of the day coming in, and then on Friday we'll pick up and continue with the ones who didn't choose to speak today.
But if you're listening to this, it'll be seamless.
Right. It'll be so seamless.
Welcome to JJ Meets World. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Aera, and I am a senior vocal music education major here at Concordia.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so I know that you probably hate when people say this, but I can't sing. I don't know anything about it. I hit the notes not right.
But that's just not true, because everyone can sing. Because everyone can sing. You just have to be trained. It's like actually been scientifically proven that you like from a young age, like singing, it can be like taught. And so you just have to work really hard, especially when you get older and you like have never had the training before. So I don't know. I wouldn't lose hope. I bet you could do it.
No,
I think
I've
you
lost
can do
all
it.
hope. All hope is gone. No, but okay. So let me ask you this. Why do you think singing is something that makes people feel so good, but they're also so embarrassed of it at the same time? Like we all love to sing in the shower. We love to sing in our cars. But if someone sees that or saw like a videotape of it, someone would be mortified.
I think singing is such a personal experience because unlike other instruments where like you blow into the instrument and you push the buttons, all of the buttons and mechanisms are inside your body. And so it's really personal because you actually don't know how you sound. Because when you speak, you don't hear your voice, you hear like your ear's perception of your voice. So then when you hear yourself like talk on the radio or sing, it's like, oh, that's not me. Like, that's how I really sound. That's horrible because you're just not used to it. So I think that's why.
So what part of this is education, right? So you want to go into teaching. What grade level do you want to teach with?
I think I want to teach elementary school music.
Whoa.
Yes. I get looks from that because people either tell me I'm crazy that I want to do that. But
I here's the thing. If we can instill in younger and younger children something like you can sing. Everyone's got this talent. The better we're going to be as we get more full-fledged human beings out there, right? It's the same reason why I always tell people I love improv comedy. I believe anybody can improvise. Some people are just better at it off the foot than someone else is, but anyone can go out there and do that. So if you want to work with elementary school students, so my elementary school music teacher was a woman named Kathy Claris. who was just awesome because you walked in there and she's like, we're going to have fun. And we use these little sticks and it was like tiri-ti, tiri-ti, tiri-ti-ta to learn how to work out like, what's on the music. But she also had a pseudonym and she went by Twyla and she was a country music singer. And so at parent-teacher conferences, there's this awkward thing where she's like, and would you like to buy my cassette tape? And so there's our generations and generations of Claire Barton Elementary School students who have the Twyla tape with our music teacher, and it wasn't great. I mean, it was fine. I mean, you produced it in Fargo, North Dakota. Probably like, okay, we got to get this 90-minute tape down. We've got 96 minutes to do the whole thing. One take only. Is there an aspect of music that you love more than another? Something that captivates your imagination?
I think like vocal music is particularly, I really love like, choral music is like,
oh, okay.
I love choral music. It's so interesting to listen to. And at all ages, like you can listen to it, like little elementary school choirs. Those are like my favorite. Like actually it's kind of, I tell my friends this because I'm in the Concordia choir here on campus. And I'm like, oh, but I would much rather listen to like my elementary schoolers sing than us sing. And they're like, that's so horrible. I'm like, but they're so cute.
Yeah, right. Oh, there's a reason why like when someone uploads like a Christmas concert in elementary school, it gets like 10,000 views overnight on YouTube, right? Because there's one kid in the back who's like picking his nose, or they do sign language to "Can you feel the love tonight?" and they're like, "That's amazing."
Have you ever heard the Langley School Music Project? This is a recording of elementary students whose music teacher in the 1970s, I think is when it happened, did arrangements of pop songs. And so it's a haunting exercise, and it can bring tears to your eyes. For instance, I'm no Eagles fan, but when I hear Desperado performed by little kids, it brings a tear to the eye. It's a really interesting. It was a project that got released on vinyl and CD and became a phenomenon. It was sort of a lost kind of concert.
Oh, I love
Well, then is there a pop culture song that you would teach your students then in the same vein if given the opportunity?
Ooh, pop culture song. I just watched Encanto, and right now my brain is thinking, I want to see a bunch of elementary schoolers sing "We Don't Talk About Bruno."
They already are. I mean, at home.
I can just imagine, like, that'd be so cute.
Yeah.
So I went to elementary school with a kid named Hans, and Hans was ultra like, this kid was light years ahead of where we were, played violin in the first grade, and we were singing a medley of songs from Aladdin. And I remember Hans stopping our singing and raising his hand, and Twyla, a.k.a. Kathy Clara, said, "Yes, Hans, what is it?" He goes, "Will we be able to sing any selections from Return of Jafar, the straight-to-video sequel to Aladdin?" And she just gave him this look, and you could tell, like, it was the end of the day, and she was just like, "Sure, Hans." We never did, by the way, because it's not as great as the original, though Tucker will argue, because how many copies of Return of Jafar do
7.
you have?
I currently own 7 copies on VHS.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Is that on Disney Plus? Is it on there?
Oh, I would assume it would be.
I would imagine,
I know,
yeah.
because there's 3.
Yeah,
Aladdin.
there's
Yeah.
the,
'Cause then
the
there's-
one where he meets his dad,
I also
right?
have that
Yeah.
one, the Prince of Thieves. What range do you sing in? Are you soprano or alto?
I'm a mezzo-soprano,
Okay.
so that's like right in between. In choir, I sing alto 2, which is the lowest voice part for a female. But it's kind of, ranges are just interesting because you sing one thing, but then you sing another thing in another place.
Yeah, back in high school, I was in choir. I was a second tenor, and I loved it because you got the harmonies. So
Yeah.
singing the harmony part was always my absolute favorite thing.
I was not in choir, and I got the speaking roles only in musicals. So, I mean, I crushed it as Mayor Shin in The Music Man. But they're like, why don't you just mouth Iowa Stubborn? Like, we'll just leave you with that. I remember, to me, the scariest thing that I've ever done on stage, without a doubt, and we're talking about, like, I've gone on stage with nothing prepared in front of 1,000 people who are stone sober and mad because they just watched a PowerPoint for 4 hours. But the scariest thing I ever did is I was in the musical Oliver, and I was The Undertaker, and he has like a whole song. He's the one, and then a couple people join in to like just add like a line of dialogue. And I was terrified leading up to the night of the show, and I remember like my hands shaking like as they're wheeling me onto the stage like to do this scene, and I'm like, I gotta do this one, and I can't tell you anything about it because I've completely blanked it out of my brain because it was so terrifying. Just like 6th grade, nothing. So think about that when you got students coming up and they're like telling you they're nervous. They're going to be really nervous.
Oh, I get the nervousness. I know like when I was a senior in high school, I was the lead in my school's musical. And like the day of, I like forced myself to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because like I could not keep anything down. Like I was so nervous. And my director's like, you just seem a little off. I'm like, I'll be fine. Just don't mention it. Like we just need to start, and it went great. But it was.
I'm so relieved to hear that was the outcome of the story.
Yeah, it was.
I
like,
just briefly have to tell you that there's a student here in Christian Bells. If you ever listen to this, a recent Cobber grad, he tells this awesome story of being promised some special cufflinks, some family heirloom from his grandmother if he does well at the concert. Well, he ends up like locking his knees and passing out and tipping over into a whole bunch of his fellow students and like knocking them off the riser. And I just love that story, the way he tells it. So I'm really relieved that yours was a positive outcome.
Yeah.
So what's the podcast you're thinking of at this point?
So the podcast has to do with choir, no surprise. I am going to tell the story of what happened to choir during COVID. So choir stopped, obviously. Ensembles here on campus like canceled their tours, and then we were also in the process of hiring a brand new artistic director. So Dr. Michael Carlson was taking over for Dr. Carlson. And then last year, all choir was 6 feet apart, masked. Sometimes we were on Zoom and we did Zoom choir. We literally would watch and they'd say, sing along. And this year we finally got to be in person, and the homecoming concert was the first in-person concert since COVID. So it's a really amazing story, and I want to show how much work and effort we've like put in to like make this happen for us.
Powerful. I had Michael on my show right before the holidays, and he should be the first guest you have on because he's a great talker.
I know. I'm going to talk to him on Friday.
Oh,
I'm going to have to tell him that I talked to you.
Yeah, say JJ from KFGO says hi. Yeah. And he can be on anytime he wants too. I've got 3 hours to fill every day, and I'd love a good guest. So, well, thank you very much. I look forward to listening to that podcast.
Thank you.
That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. So this whole time I've had a notepad in front of me and I haven't written anything on it, and I don't feel like I'm smart enough to write a really good note to myself. So future JJ, when you listen to this, just tell yourself, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At least you didn't get, I got ink on my hands.